We've got 1 hour of mortgage and real estate talk. And of course, Karen's going to share what's going on in the local markets here locally. Of course, we'll talk about mortgage rates, some unique programs. We've got a whole bunch of great new stuff happening, and we want to share it with you. 248-539-9797. And Becky, these rates have sort of stabilized, actually. I mean, they burped up, they came down, but 8% is more of a normal rate. There are a lot of families out there that have better loan to values, better credit scores. They might be able to get under 8%.
Yeah, I mean, the rates are always arbitrary. If you're reading a rate on a piece of paper, if it's not locked in, it's yesterday's news, because these rates have been changing on the daily. Sometimes they were changing multiple times a day, but you're right, they have stabilized a little bit, but everything is so reactionary. It depends on what the Fed says online, what someone posts online. It could be all changing. But I mean, when we're hitting the rates, I really haven't given out too many eights. You know, it's definitely high sevens for sure. But I actually had the luxury of speaking to a first-time homebuyer yesterday that was under contract. And we just, got in a conversation. They were working with a different lender, and they were actually quoted 8.6 or something like that, I believe it was. And they qualified for one of our down payment assistance programs. And I was literally able to drop their rate to the MIJDA fix 6.875, get them $10,000 in down payment assistance, and literally cut their, what they had to bring to like a quarter of what they were bringing, which was a very beautiful moment. But had I not had that conversation, there's so many of those individuals out there. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, I think everybody's making too much of the rates because that's all anybody knows to talk about. What is your rate? What are the rates? They're seeing here. It has to apply to your individual set of circumstances. If you can afford to buy the house, you shouldn't wait. We'll talk about that with you. It's perfect.
Right.
But if it fits into your budget and you see that house, rates are going to go up. I predict they're going to continue to go up a little bit more, and then of course they're going to go down. It always happens that way. There are these swings in the market. Right now, it's an upward swing. It's been happening that way for the last 17 months. Mm-hmm. So we have to and people have settled into the fact that the rates are higher. They're not high, relatively speaking. They're higher compared to 3 and 4. But the bottom line is, if you can find a house out there, and I want you to talk about that, there are homes that if people go ahead and get into them now, we can always refinance them to a lower rate. So you ready?
Right.
If you can afford the higher payment now, you can certainly afford a lower payment in the future.
Correct. The time to buy is going to be when you are approved. So you have to get your pre-approval and get that all set in line, because you don't know what's going to happen down the road if you're going to fall out of the possibility of being approved, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So you want to be able to buy the home when you know that you're set up to be pre-approved. Everything's great. The rates fluctuate. The price of the home that you're going to purchase it at, that's fixed. You're not going to go back and negotiate that later on, right? So everyone focuses on that rate, but right now you're looking at buying the home at a little bit less, right? And then later readjusting that.
Well, you mentioned that there's a little bit of a window here, and we keep talking about this window that comes up every year when people just got the kids back into school. Of course, we're about a month and a half into the school starting here. But the biggest wave of demand for housing, it's still there. It's not going anywhere. And there might be this window of opportunity where you don't have to go 10 or 20,000 over.
Yeah, it's true. And one thing's for sure, if you see investors start sneaking out there and they're out there, they're calling me. I have investors that constantly call on me for purchasing. That means you should be out there too for your primary home. You shouldn't be on the sidelines. And we're coming into that season, like you said, it's just after the kids have gone back to school and everybody says, oh, but winter, that's not a great time to buy. That is a season in real estate. Trust me.
To summarize it, and Becky, I want you to elaborate on this. We're on the street every single day. We're busy. There are plenty of buyers out there that are signing purchase agreements that want to get into homes. So what we're seeing is, to summarize, it's not a rate issue. It's a home inventory issue.
Yeah, we're in a housing crisis. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. And you hit that point so eloquent. It was very perfect because it's the truth. If the investor is recognizing that there's opportunity and they don't care that their rate is truly in the high 8s, that's a fact, because if you're buying an investment property, your rate will be higher than a primary home. They're recognizing the opportunity because they've seen this cycle before. They've seen that the rates are going to come down. They have opportunities to refinance, and they're focusing on the cash flow. So your property that you could be owning, because if you're not buying your own home, you are renting somebody else's and you're paying someone's mortgage regardless. And investors, there's so many. And I feel like with the programs, and even with we talked about it last week on the show, the multi-units, right? They've now adjusted it where a multi-unit you can get in as a primary home for 5% down. Why do you think that is? It's because they recognize the investor sees the opportunity and they want to give those opportunities to people that are going to be occupying the home, so that we were not in another situation where we are even in a deeper housing crisis because these investors are not going to let these properties go.
Well, so Becky, when these investors come in and buy these houses, they recognize the fact there's a housing shortage. They're going to go in, some will fix it up, they'll make it nicer, and then they might flip it or they just might rent it out. So what does that tell you? That's the indicator that, like you said, it's always a good time to buy a house for your primary if it's in your budget and you can afford it.
And you've probably talked about it on the show. The housing bubble that we're in is we have about 1.9 months of supply. So normally, to anybody out there on the street, it should be 6 months, right?
Yep.
So we're looking at still having a lower inventory, which is really great for sellers. But the buyers out there, we're on the streets, right? We're watching the prices subtly start to be a little softer. And that's why we know the buyers need to come out of the sidelines. And one other thing I want to mention, because this touches on it, I think a lot of people are getting their information from the news, and what they need to do is talk to a lender.
I love how you mentioned that, because we talk about that all the time.
It makes us riot.
What's happening in Topeka, Kansas, or Santa Fe, New Mexico, is not necessarily.
Kansas.
Yeah, you happening? Like that? Pull that one out. It's not happening here. You have to be specific to the market. We talked about specificity explicitly on the podcast this week. So you just coming in here and mentioning that again, people have to understand whatever's happening in this market is happening in this market, your market, our market, where you're looking to buy that home, Harvey.
You were going to take all your calls this morning. 248-539-9797. Absolutely hear you. While a 4 to 6 month supply is considered a real equalizer for buyers and seller, we're about a third of that. And like you said, about a 1.9 month supply here of homes here in Southeast Michigan. Hey, we want to hear from you. Definitely. These home prices have only declined. You guys saw the chart. We had Dave Stevens on, and we did a webinar earlier this week.
They haven't declined.
Only 6 times in 80 years.
Right. Good.
6 times in 80 years is the only time. Yeah. There's a decline. Right. 6 times in 80 years. Not too bad.
I don't know. I don't like those odds.
You can't go against the champ.
If you're laying the 24, those might be better odds than 6 times in 80 years, right?
Well, definitely. Hey, guys, the Fed created this huge marketplace as, of course, the pandemic kicked in. Rates came tumbling down. Those people all look like geniuses. So salute to anybody who did purchase in 20, 21, 22. And I'll go a step further. Go ahead and purchase in 23. You got this window. Karen, that's what we're talking about here. Wrap up the year. Sit down, find out what the numbers look like. Because like you said, let the home appreciate. Maybe down the road you can refinance the house.
Exactly. I mean, I would like to see everybody take a shot at getting a pre-approval. If you were thinking about buying a home and you sat out and missed it in 2021, 22, now's the time to go ahead and get your pre-approval and say, where do I sit? Is it time for me? Am I okay? Stop second guessing your credit score.
So you know how you sit there and you say, I should have done this, I should have done that, I coulda, woulda, shoulda?
Yeah.
We have so many people right now saying the same thing. I could have bought in 2019, 2020 before the pandemic. Listen, if you're thinking you should and you can afford it, you might as well take a look at doing it.
All right, folks, if you're just waking up because you were out at the KISS concert last night, all right, we're alive and kicking here in the studio. We'd love to hear from you. If you're, again, thinking about buying or selling a house, 248-539-9797. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. We are powered by Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, NMLS 2289, Equal Housing Lender. You can catch us at Capital Mortgage, 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. Of course, we take all your calls here live in the studio at 248-539-9797. I'm Harvey Freed, Harry Glanz, Becky Yaley, Karen Miazzi, of course, from Thrive Realty. Karen, you're really talkative, and you got a lot to say because you and I both know this is going to be an unbelievable time. Housing, of course, it's something completely different, and owning a house can result in so many great things, including the financial outlook for yourself. As we see so many families, even who bought, Becky, in the last few years, they're reaching out now and saying, you know what, I'm thinking about that consolidation loan. The credit cards got out of hand. Life happens, Becky, and that's one of the things. Life's always happening. Credit cards are going up. Kids are going to college. The cost of living went up.
Well, the reality is that some of this aftermath from the pandemic of people being out of work and then being laid off in the interim of that have caught up with everybody, where they were relying on their credit card debt. They were kind of extending themselves, taking out debt because they're like, oh, I can't touch this 3% interest rate, so I'm going to take out a different loan. I'm going to take out a different loan. I'm going to take out this 30% personal loan. And those have been more affected by the Fed raising these rates, these temporary financings, like your car loans, your personal loans, the student loans, obviously they're now in debt. And I actually, just this week alone, I think I took probably, and I think I'm being conservative, 20 different refinance calls, whether they were going to do a home equity line of credit or pull the cash out, because there's so many individuals out there that they're understanding that, yes, do they have the golden handcuffs of equity, but it's unrealized. It's there to help you, but be in a better situation. So if we can save you $300, $400. Someone was saving $800 a month by doing a refinance, even right now in today's market, because you do have the equity. The point that we're getting to is once you have real estate and you own this is a tangible asset that you can dip into. It's not a depreciating asset unless it's 8 times in the last 80 years that we talked about, that you can really utilize it and put yourself in a better financial position, because again, when these rates do come down, you can refinance again as well.
Hey, Becky, we're not on this program. We've done this program for 23 years, been in the business 34 years. We do not advocate people using their house as a piggy bank. Okay.
No.
So the math is still the math. If you're paying 22%, now that's a high rate. Okay, as compared to if you can get an 8% rate or 8.5% or whatever the number is, it's still going to be way lower than you're paying on your credit cards. Now, the trick is if you're going to do a cash out refinance and you've got those 3 or 4 credit cards that are $7,000 to $10,000 to $12,000 a piece, so you're running up about $30,000 of credit card debt. And we see it. That could be low, that could be high from what we see that comes across our desk in our office every day. And you consolidate that debt. You roll it in and you cut up those credit cards and only keep that one gas card, the one department store card, and the one MasterCard or Visa, but you throw away all the others. That is a financial win. If you could save $300, $800 a month, because other costs are going up. You're going to have your car payment, you're going to have your utility bills, but you got to get rid of that toxic credit card debt.
Oh, yeah, it's a win for sure. Yeah. And actually, a lot of people probably have more equity than they think they have. I've seen appraisals come back at amazing rates. People have asked me to do, a competitive market analysis on their home, and their home is worth a lot more than what they thought. So it's a safe bet to say about $30,000 is a good chunk of change, right? But you could still have more equity left in your home even after you take care of that.
I have to caution everybody, if anybody's out there thinking we're advocating just pulling every single dollar out of your house. No, that's not what we're saying.
Yeah, you can.
What we're saying is you can call us, be financially responsible. It is insane to go ahead and continue to roll over 22% credit card debt every single month.
Well, let me put something into perspective. So I had an individual where they didn't want to touch the equity in their home. So even if you take a conservative 3% appreciation from the $300,000 house you buy today, that's $310, even being conservative this time next year, if that's all you saw in it. But anyway, I had an individual where they didn't want to touch the equity in their home, rightfully so. It was good. They took out a personal loan. And to kind of give it to scale, it was a $35,000 personal loan, for example. The payment on that was $895. Now, the interest rate on that was absolutely ridiculous, and they couldn't afford it. It was like 2 car payments, and it was affecting their affordability of even trying to buy another home. So we had to really set up a game plan to get them in the right position. But all that starts with these conversations, these educated conversations, the hard questions being asked, the hard answers being heard. and then really coming up with a game plan for whether you're buying or selling or even trying to refinance.
Right, because everybody, it's like DNA. Everybody's little situation is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's never the same. It's never the same.
So let's talk about home values for a second. You brought it up. I think it's a great point to bring up. Right now, we're not seeing, and as soon as I say this, Harvey, you're going to come to my office Monday morning and say you have an appraisal issue.
Oh, you're going to jinx this whole
I'm
thing.
going to jinx it right now.
We always
everybody.
see them in June,
That's
early
right.
September.
You're not seeing appraisal issues on houses coming in.
Correct.
And if you are, it's only because somebody paid $75,000, $80,000 over asking price. Now, when somebody does that as a realtor, Karen, when you're advising your clients, and let's say they want to go, it's okay if you want to overpay because that's the house you're going to be in forever and ever and ever. That's fine. There's a price to jumping in that type of a market. So when we go ahead and we tell our clients, listen, we know you're going over, be prepared if the appraisal doesn't come in at the sales price. What do you tell your clients?
Right. So basically, there are clients out there that are willing to do a large amount over. And this is, again, where you don't want to watch the national news. Even in Michigan, we have pockets of areas where
Love that.
Right now, I'm not writing at listing price, but writing a little bit under. And then I'm going to go to another city. Do I want to say Troy? And I'm writing over.
Yeah, it's a little more competitive. Oh, yeah.
It's very competitive. It's always going to be that way.
Right.
So we're looking at writing appraisal guarantees. So you have got to have that cash on hand if the appraisal comes in lower. You really...
So I love that you say that. So we're listening to Karen Miasi from Thrive Realty Co. And that's just a testament of the high level of agents that are coming out of this office, and even just from you individually, where you're very dialed in, because you hear the national news, but then you also have micro, macro, even in Michigan. It's different in Troy. Yeah. Then you go to Detroit, and they're sitting for 30 days right now, depending on certain areas.
Right.
And that's why we have some specific programs for Detroit. But you have to be dialed in. You cannot go with an online agent that doesn't have boots on the ground in these specific cities and counties, because that's when you're going to get burned, and that's when you're writing these multiple offers, and you get that buyer fatigue that was plaguing so many people because they were in line with the wrong people.
Right. You're right. And our agents, we do a phenomenal job. I mean, you really need to have a technician as a real estate agent.
Oh, I like that.
But you do need to have a duo. You have to have a great lending partner, someone that I can rely on a Saturday or Sunday. So if I'm putting in that offer, Becky's picking up the phone and telling that listing agent, hey, yeah, these people are great to go. I've already gotten them desktop underwritten. So this is important. You know, in a competitive world, we can't just not speak to whatever's going on with the buyer. We have to know that they're in a great position to get through the sale.
Yeah, it's a hot market. You're working, we're working, and sitting at a closing the other day, and it's a nice situation. We're sitting in a closing where there's sellers that sold to the buyer. They wanted to buy the house, the two realtors and the lender. I was there. So you sit there, and the feeling that you get is that this was an easy transaction. Everybody got along. Buyer got what they wanted. Seller got what they wanted. Both realtors, it was easy. There was no hassles. I think it closed in under 30 days. And nobody was worried about anything. Why? Here's the why. The why is it's a relationship game, right? If everybody knows everybody in the business, when I say that, when you're in the business, you know who's in the business.
Yeah,
you know who's working.
There's a lot of us, but it's a small community.
No, it's a very small community. You know who's working. You know who's going to pick up that phone on a weeknight at 9:45 or on a Saturday and a Sunday. When people say, well, Harry, that's the business that you've chosen, right? Well, yeah, it is the business I've chosen, but a lot of people choose the business, but the business has to choose you too. All right. You just cannot just sit around and say, oh, I'm in the mortgage business and that's it. No. There's workers and there are people that say they're in the business. You got to be a worker.
Yeah.
248-539-9797 if you want to join the call. Hey, Harry, we're not delivering babies here, but yes, we will take your call.
I mean, we might be. I don't know.
Hey, on the pecking order,
It's
there are
very
a lot of
emotional.
priorities before.
Yeah,
we're
it's
kind of
very
like
emotional.
seventh on the list.
Way down there a
You're
little
way
bit.
way down on the
Call
list.
in, somebody.
All right, definitely. We'll take your calls here. We're up against a quick break. 248-539-9797. Keep it here. All righty, welcome back to the show. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show here in our 23rd plus year, giving you all sorts of great information about mortgages and real estate. Be sure to call us at Capital Mortgage Funny at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker, here live in the studio. We'd love to hear from you, 248-539-9797. We got lots to talk about. Of course, mortgage rates. Yeah, boy, even this year here, they creeped up. We heard some of the so-called experts talking about, oh, yeah, by the end of 2023, you'll see them coming down. Well, we didn't.
Or May even.
We started the year, Becky, at 6%. Now we're hovering in the higher 7s. But we got that great offer. If you want 6.25%, Becky, it's available. Of course, the Mr. loan out there that not taking the down payment assistance, but getting that 6.25%, that might fit your budget.
Yeah, I mean, there is the amount of programs that we have the accessibility to would literally make someone's head explode. So that's why it's so important for you to align yourself with a professional that's not just always serving up vanilla. You have to know, like we talked about, you said it was like their DNA. Every person is different. Every program is different. And we have to be able to identify what's best for them.
All right. Hey, Eric over there. Let's go to our caller. Hey, Michael, thanks for calling in this morning. We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, good morning, guys. Oh, by the way, Detroit Rock City, baby.
I know. They're waking everyone up today.
Mike, did you go to the show last night or just an old Kiss fan?
Yeah. No, I was jeans, sweat dripped on me, okay?
Oh, man.
Not good.
I'm going to look for you there in the crowd.
Yeah, I was there in 1976 and there last night for my last one. Awesome. Just as good as ever.
You had to go there and open up a can of worms. I was my first concert, 1978 at Olympia. The Rockets warmed him up. If you're listening and you're a Kiss fan, that was my first gig.
Hey, Mike, you were from Berkeley, were you, in 1976 going to Kiss concerts?
I don't remember that. I was really out there then. So, it's been a while.
All right, go ahead.
Mike, what do you got on the mortgage real estate side? What do you got?
You know what? I'm 65. I've purchased about 15 or 16 homes over the years. A lot of them were flipping. And there was one thing I wanted to add to the brilliant, and I do mean brilliant advice you are giving. Listeners, you need to know what they are telling you. You listen. They are very good at their jobs. One thing I'd like to say is if you're out there and you thinking you want to buy, but my credit score might not be that good or that, you got to go out there and you have to try. All it takes is some pieces of papers and some numbers to see if you can get pre-approved. I know many mortgage companies that, hey, a 645, you can buy a house. You may not get the best rate, but you can still buy now and adjust it later. And that's when you guys come in and guide them through. So really the bottom line here I just wanted to say is that you guys are super good at your jobs. I've sat through so many closings, and you are right. When all the ducks are in a row, the I's are dotted, T's are signed, and you got an agent like you guys, it's painless.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you.
I really appreciate that.
I mean, and truth be told, you actually can get a mortgage with a 580, and he's so true. I actually did a social media post yesterday. My 3 buyer mistakes are not keeping enough money in the bank, thinking you need 20% down. And then my biggest one is people don't even try. And that is a huge problem because you're sitting there, you're renting, you don't even know what you qualify for, and you don't know because you never had the proper conversations.
Hey guys, let's roll off to another call here. And if you want to join the show, 248-539-9797. We got Marcus calling in. Hey, Marcus, go ahead with your call, please.
Oh, hey, how's it going? I'm a sports talk fan, but I do hear y'all come on, and basically I'm in the baby stages. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I do work a job, and I've never purchased a home. I always rent it. I just want to know, what advice can you give me, to just start off? What should I be doing?
Well, first of all, congratulations on making the first call. That's right. Literally the first step is making the call. Obviously, we're not going to get into all the logistics on air with you. We'll talk to you after the show, but this is the very first, the want, the need. You're one choice away from a completely different life. And if you are sick of renting, you need to know where you're at. You need to know where your numbers are and what you can afford. So obviously you're going to identify what you're paying in rent. What are you making per month as far as your employment? And then where are you at with your credit stages, right? Some people, if you don't have credit, how can we get you there with established credit? I mean, so there's a million different ways we can get there. Just kind of identifying really, truly, what do you feel comfortable with paying per month, do you think?
Well, shoot, at these apartments, I've been paying up to $1,300. So, I mean, I can pay in that range for sure.
That's about a 160
no
house.
more than 15.
Yeah. So that's cool, Marcus. And I'm going to tell you this: it doesn't cost anything to have a conversation with Becky, Harvey, myself, anybody. It does not cost anything. If somebody wants to charge you to have a conversation and just exchange information with them, you got to run away from that. So what we'll do is Becky will call you after the show. The conversation is free. We go ahead, we'll collect some information, and then we'll let you know what we can get you approved for. Yes, it's just that simple, and it doesn't cost you anything.
That's a great call, Marcus. We'll definitely follow up after the show and appreciate your call. Again, if we want to hear from you, 248-539.
Yeah, but Marcus, let me ask. I got. He left.
Yeah,
he left. I just want to know if he thinks the Lions are going to win tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was going to go there, but it's okay.
Okay, we can put
Yeah,
those
he said he's
together.
sports talk. Yeah.
He said
Well,
he's a sports guy.
congratulations to Marcus for calling in. I mean, making the call is the first step. If you look at it this way, if you're sick, you're going to call a doctor, right? You're going to get the professional advice and you're going to trust it. So the first step is making the call, finding a realtor and finding a lending partner. Together, we are the trifecta. We have to all work together, and we can do that and help you find your home.
I love that. Yep.
I'm going to give a salute out to Abstract Title. Had a nice closing with them on Thursday, of
They
course.
are great.
And the house was a first-time homeowner, and it was fantastic. And the numbers were way less than $1,300 a month. So, again, this gentleman's thinking about buying the house 3 to 5 years. It looks like he had a new relationship and a situation. But I think the payment was way under $1,300. And there's lots of housing. Let's go there. There's lots of housing available for first-time homeowners.
Let me tell you, there are housing situations out there that I've gone to the closing and the buyer was owed 79 cents.
Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We get them all
Well,
the
yeah,
time.
we were
need
doing
to
those kinds of transactions.
Exactly,
yes.
Becky. People need to understand that. So it's all about the ask. If you want the home and you're sitting there and you've been saying, I should buy a home, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. It has been so, to me, eye-opening in real estate that people don't want to call a lender and they don't want to call a realtor. I think they've got it in their head somehow that maybe we're like too eager to get them. Then you're calling the wrong realtor.
Yeah, it's what Harry was just saying. If you are talking to someone that is trying to get some kind of deposit just because you're having a conversation, run the other way. But a lot of people also carry that shame. Maybe they didn't know how to handle their credit. Maybe they weren't taught, how to be financially responsible, and that's not their fault. But you have the conversation with the right people because we are literally handling everyone as if they're our family, and you're not going to get that from every single lender. There's some really good lenders out there, and there's some really good real estate agents, but there's also good doctors, there's bad doctors, there's good and bad in everything.
If
the first thing that comes out of somebody's mouth is, what's your credit card number? I have to take a deposit. That's the one you got to run away from.
Run.
Yeah.
There's some people that are very aggressive, and that buyer that I talked to that had a higher interest rate, that loan officer was extremely aggressive with them. And I could, like they were kind of telling some stories of what was happening. But I was like, it doesn't matter how aggressive someone is. They're aggressive for a reason because they're trying to push you in a direction that you don't need to walk down. You need to have all the options in front of you so you can make a confident, informed decision.
You just brought up a really good point that comes up a lot. There is a fine line between when you're going to talk to me as I'm your realtor, you're going to buy your house on your timeline, not on my timeline, right? Correct? Yep. But I'm giving you the advice of what is happening in the marketplace. I didn't set the market, right? So I'm telling you, if you're buying this home in this area right now, the offer has to be made as we leave the house before tonight. Mm-hmm. You have to make a decision. But you want to go down the road, we can wait 20 days. You can make a decision then. But that information cannot be confused.
Yeah, but you're having those conversations. You're setting the proper expectations from the very get-go. So they understand this is going to be an aggressive situation. We have to come in with our guns blazing. Or over here down the road, we can actually take our time, think about it, ponder, and we'll go look at it 5 or 6 times.
Exactly.
But each situation is different.
One of my favorite classes was, of course, geography in school, and it was really cool. And I get to use it now in life, but there's no doubt. We didn't teach a lot of this in school. So salute out there to all the geometry teachers, algebra teachers. But we should have that basic life class, 101. How do you buy a house?
Yes.
How do you talk to people, and how do you handle that credit score? I'll tell you what, we'll come back with all that information and a whole lot more. Keep it here, 248-539-9797. We'll be right back. Oh, hey, good morning. Welcome back to the show. We are live in the studio, 944. If you just joined us, the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. I'm Harvey Freed, Becky Haley. Of course, Harry Glanz joins us this morning. Get the big man in here. And Karen Miyasi from Thrive Realty. Karen, you're awesome. Really nice to talk to. I was going to get into the...
calming. She's like a calm
She's a nice
vibe.
calming
Yeah, you got good vibes.
We'll go into credit score and a little bit of that, but let's go out to our caller here. Hey, Kevin, you're calling in and we want to get you on the air here. Good morning, Kevin. Live on the ticket. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's just a question. My daughter is in the process of getting divorced, and she will be getting the house in the settlement, but she has to get his name off the house, and I'm assuming the only way to do that is to refinance.
That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct. Is there something in the divorce judgment that gives them time? Is there a specific time period that they have to go about doing that?
I believe within 1 year.
Okay.
That she would have to get his name off the house, but she's currently locked in at 4%, and they've ticked up quite a bit. And it's like, oh, this is going to hurt you financially.
Well, let me ask you this question: Does she have to pay him any amount of the equity out of the house, or is it just a simple let's get him off the house so he's not obligated anymore?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, here's the thing. I mean, if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Right.
I would tell you that she can afford to stay in the house. She qualifies on her own, correct?
I believe she does, but I don't know her finances in and out. But I think, going from 4% to 8% is going to put a pinch on her.
Well, let's take a look at it. I think, again, like we said in our last segment, it doesn't cost anything to go ahead and get that information. And we can certainly do that. We're pretty good at settling those divorce matters when the judgments are out, and we'll take a look at it. And you know what? You just want to get that done with. You want to put that behind you, and you're a good dad for doing this for her and at least calling. But you got to get that behind. I'm sure you want to get all that behind you, and this is one of the steps to do it. We'll take a look at it. You're right. Nobody wants to give up a 4% for an 8%, but if you have to give up a little bit now, it's like taking one step back to go 2 steps forward.
Yeah, sometimes you got to buy someone out of your life.
Right?
Yeah, but I figured that that was the only way to get his name off of there, and I am correct then.
Yeah, you are correct, and let's take a look at it because it might not be that. It might not be as much as you think. We'll check out the balance. We'll figure it out, and then remember, in the future, we can always lower the rate if and when the rates go down. They will go down, but it might take a little bit, but you want to get that part of the process done.
All right. Hey, Becky, how about that part of it too? Is someone's going to be receiving child support here, and let's talk about that income coming in. So that's additional income that sometimes we need to allow that spouse to qualify on their own, especially with the higher rates now. So one of the things is with the divorce situation, if you start receiving the child support, I think this is good information to share. Becky, how many months is it roughly?
6.
6 months. So if you are going to be receiving child support, again, we don't know your daughter's situation. Maybe she's going to be paying it, but that also, Becky, plays into the whole story of the situation on the mortgage.
Yeah, Kevin, this was an amazing call. We really appreciate the candor and sharing that because this is a very normal call. Like there's nothing to be, hesitant or shameful about it. Is just a thing that we deal with all the time. We're very, very good at it. And the difference between the 4 and the 8, like Harry was saying, it might not be that significant. So we're definitely going to reach out to you after the show. We'll figure out what's best. And if your daughter wants to speak with us, that's great. And we can kind of come up with a timeline. The fact that they give her 12 months to make that decision, we can see what it looks like. And if it's just one of those moments where she wants to move on, let's get you in that position to do so.
All right. Thanks for the call.
And it's true. I mean,
thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Because I had, maybe like 2 or 3 divorce situations. One of them was a refinance. One of them was, we are exiting the marital home, going into the new marital home. You can make moves even before the divorce is final, as long as all parties are aware of what's happening. And the attorneys and all that stuff everyone's jiving together. But
we love talking with the divorce attorneys for that reason. We want to know what they're going to put down on the divorce decree. What debts have to be paid off? There's a lot of language.
Yeah, there's a lot
of
IRS debts I'm seeing on divorce decrees where people are owing to to the IRS. It's tax season, right? If you filed the extension, that was on Monday, and there's a lot of this where if you were self-employed, maybe you didn't pay that IRS debt, and now that IRS debt is showing up on that divorce decree. We have to follow the divorce decree to the letter that it is written. It trumps everything. So you have to know, and I've seen where people don't understand the language that's there, and there's reasons why everything has to be checks and balances on all of it.
Yeah, and when somebody wants to get off the obligation, they want off, and then usually the person that is going to stay in the house, they want that other person off too. They want to start clean.
Yeah, get out of my life.
Yeah,
right?
You got to start it clean, and if that's the process where you start alleviating those situations and the debt load on one side, getting 100% control of the property and everything on the other side. It's a situation where, in the end, both parties are going to benefit. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, the headspace that's involved in it too.
Yeah.
Takes up a lot of time in your head,
does.
right, Harv?
Yes, it can get really nasty, and a lot of families spend a lot of money going the wrong way.
I work with a divorce attorney, and when it's great that Kevin called for his daughter, actually, because when you don't take care of that situation, you end up where the divorce attorney calls me and says, we're going to list you as the realtor on record with the judge. You're going to sell that house. And that's how I work with the divorce attorney.
Yeah.
So,
it goes from a choice to not a choice.
Not a choice.
Is a demand.
And I'm telling you, those are some of the hardest closings that I've been to.
They also can be amicable situations. Karen Miasi, we were talking about it at the break a little bit. Yeah.
You want to have amicable divorces, and if you don't, you want to get to that point.
Yeah,
after.
Yes, because it can be it can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. But the biggest thing is being informed, knowing what the situation is, because there's choices and there's obligations. And if it's obligated, you have to do what you got to do. You have to do what's on there. But if you can get to that point where you don't feel like someone is portioning you a certain way, get there.
All right, you guys, definitely work with the experts. Hey, keep it here on 97.1. After us, you're going to have Pat Caputo, of course, Red Wing Hockey coming up at 12:45 with Ken Cal and Paul Woods. I haven't seen Kenny in a long time. I think I golfed with him 30 years. Kenny, if you're listening, reach out to us. Capital Mortgage Funding, 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. You got to deal with the professionals, folks. Who's giving you this advice? How many years of experience do they have? I don't know. Did they go through something like this in their life? Have they ever been divorced? Do they handle a lot of these transactions? So,
it's the resources that people have. We have a lot of accountants, a lot of attorneys, a lot of financial planners that we talk with, and we consult with them every single day. And if we don't know an answer, we're not ashamed to pick up a phone, call one of our experts on our panel and get that answer. I can tell you that, Becky, I, Harvey, John, Lisa, everybody in our office, we do take legal advice, and we know who to pick up the phone to call, especially in divorce situations, right, Beck? We know all these things. And you got to go with that partner. You have a real estate partner, you have a lending partner, you have a legal accounting partner, and these are the financial partner. You have to have this. And I learned a long time ago, listening to Rick Bloom on this program, sitting in this chair, well, maybe not in this chair, in the 80s, he gave great advice. So we try to follow in those footsteps, and we just want to give you the best advice possible. If we don't know the answer, we'll find you the answer for you.
I love that you said that, because if you are talking, we know a lot about a lot, but at the same time, if you're dealing with someone that thinks they know everything, that's another sign that you need to run away, because there's a lot of situations we have come across, but like you said, we're not afraid. Hey, that's a great question. I'm going to get that answer, because we don't want to shoot from the hip and just act like we know everything. We want to give you factual information.
Listen, we've done hundreds of thousands of transactions over the last 34 years.
Get your ego out of the way.
Okay, you ready? You ready? We don't know everything.
Right.
It doesn't matter. So there are certain specific information you need to give to people, because everybody's different. There's no cookie cutter, throw you in a box, and this is the way it's going to be. We handle those hundreds of thousands of transactions individually. I know it's hard to believe. I can't even tell you in 34 years all the situations we've come into, but we treat them individually. So that's what we wipe the slate clean every day.
Yeah, hey, listen, the information's it's always changing.
No day is the same.
No day is the same. One of the things, too, we talked about credit, too, Karen, a little bit. And the benchmark was anything over 720. Then it went to 740. Now
760.
60. Then you've seen multiples of 20 here. No doubt there's things that you can do just by reaching out to us, Karen. We let these little tricks to fix your credit score. We've got a software program. Give us a call. It'll get your credit score up. We'll tell you exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, that sounds great.
A big misnomer out there is, when you're having the first conversation, people say, I don't want you to pull my credit. It's going to ding my credit. And that is not accurate information. Another one is you actually can have more than one person pull your credit within 45 days. A mortgage inquiry is completely different than you going around in Lowe's and Home Depot and shopping the best 0% credit card. People do not hesitate to have their credit pulled for the cars, for debts, for liabilities, but they clinch their pearls if they're doing a mortgage inquiry when those are the softest, non-affecting. They don't even affect your credit for 30 days, in case you didn't know that either. So the biggest effects on your credit are missed payments and overextending your balances. What do I mean by that? If your credit limit is $3,000 and I pull your credit and your your balance is at $3,005, that's literally going to probably drop your scores by 80 points easy. But that's an easy fix for me, because I immediately am identifying that and telling you how to fix it. But if you don't know, you don't know. And if you don't know because you're not having the conversations or you're having the wrong people look at your information or denying you because they didn't take the extra 5 seconds to actually comb through that credit report and identify something so simple that's the difference between you buying your first house and not.
Well, you mentioned it, guys. You guys already mentioned it. We have these resources. We can reach out to a couple credit repair companies that we've already vetted. We know who can help you get the credit fixed up. If you're in that really tough situation, you got things that are on there really bruised and things that you might have to really get the professionals involved. Important to give us a call. Again, reach out to us. We've got a few minutes left here live in the studio, 248-539-9797. Always at Capital Mortgage Funding at 1-800-LOW-RATE. That's 1-800-569-7283. Hey, there's a football game later this evening here. If you didn't hear about it.
Yeah, I heard about it.
Whatever side of the fence you're on. Look,
we're blue over here.
We're green over here.
Yeah, he's green.
There's only one side of the fence that you can be on. But you know, you have to be objective.
That's okay.
I hope it's a competitive game. I hope the weather is a little bit nasty out so it holds the score down. So other than that, if you're thinking about laying the 24, that's on you.
Yeah. Well, I want to mention something too. And to your point, we don't always have all the questions and our answers in our head, right? Mm-hmm. And so our job is to seek that answer for you. Everybody's situation can be so individual. We tend to not care about what percentage we're paying for a car, but we care when it comes to a home.
Yeah, it's very...
I just don't know why.
Yeah, it literally blows my mind on a daily basis. And we got some calls coming in, so
Great.
We're definitely going to be hitting you guys up after the show since we just ran out of time.
Yes, we are up against the end of the show here. We got Pat Caputo coming up here with sports. That was the fastest hour. Karen, we want to thank you.
Karen, you did
fantastic.
great. You were wonderful.
Karen Miyasi, Thrive Realty.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Call me if you guys are interested in buying a home.
All right, we'll get you all hooked up. Call Capital Mortgage Funding. We'll get you set up with Karen and all those great real estate agents all across Southeast Michigan. Hey, for Becky Alley, Harry Glantz, I'm Harvey Freed. We will see you next Saturday.